You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Today we have Cory Procter. Cory is a former NFL player, founded Pro Capital Wealth Management in Southlake, Texas, where he leads entrepreneurial families through financial planning with a focus on asset protection. He speaks nationwide on money and faith and serves on the Majesty Outdoors board. Welcome.
Good to be here. It's good.
Yeah, great to have you here. So, Cory, before we get stuck into your very interesting life story about being in the NFL and what made you so good at money, we were chatting a little bit before, and I just would love for you to tell people what you were telling me, okay? Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, everybody, Cory was talking about people that are good with money and people that are not good with money. And I thought that'd be amazing if you could tell us, like, what do people that are good with money do? And what are people that are bad with money do?
Sure. I'll tell you a very basic premise. A lot of people want to get really granular with it or think it's something super hard to understand. It's not that hard to understand, but I'll tell you a big thing that people do well with money is they have control over their emotions. And so I'll give you an example. We had a client early on that went through a divorce, and she blamed her ex-husband as being the reason that was draining all the accounts down, and this guy was overspending. Well, as it comes to it, she blew through everything she had, and it was just one account right after another that ended up getting closed out. And it was a really tough thing, but it ended up being a real big sob story every time there was a phone call. And so it was a firing after one job, firing after another. And so there was no control over the emotions of really implementing into action versus somebody who's excellent with their money. They have a great ability to not react, and they can think for a moment and stop before they actually do something. And when it comes to money, our entrepreneurs, when they start getting heavy cash flow months, there has to be a pause moment in what I want to do with this. And the most practical level is when entrepreneurs, we face big cash flow months and low cash flow months, and times it gets skinny. And so you got to be able to roll with those. And what I mean by that is practically when we have high cash flow months, we got to be paying down debt and investing heavily. And then when we have low cash flow months, we got to be able to be a little flexible and be able to take on a line of credit potentially to float our staff. And so we got to, and it's a little risk, and some people might not like borrowing, but I don't want to pull out of investments and punch holes in that, essentially, if I'm trying to build away. And then when that cash flow gets back heavy, we can go pay it off again.
Okay, so let's get back to what bad, because we got a little bit sidetracked. Okay, so
Okay.
Good people who are good with money, you were talking about they don't blow through it. So what do you mean by that?
Don't blow through it. So somebody who gets a heavy income or cash flow from the business, or anybody in any job, really, the bulk response from the world is they go spend. I want to get the thing, go on the trip. And I'm not saying that's bad. I want you to experience life and do that today. But they go blow everything. And so they have nothing to show for it. So this is why, we'll have a discovery call with people that will come in, and they'll be making $3 million a year, but they're up to their eyeballs in debt.
Okay. So the first thing is they get a little bit, the way I see it is they're not really looking at things in a realistic way. They're just like, oh, I made money. They're spending like mad. So people that are good with money are maybe not frugal, but mindful of not just going and spending it all right away and having, well, it's the classic thing of the buckets. You save some, right? I mean, this is a very basic kind of strategy, but it seems to me like a lot of people were never taught the basic strategy of you don't just spend all the money you have, right?
A lot of people aren't.
And why do you think that?
Well, it could be one way or the other. So a lot of it comes from, the way we were raised. And so I hear a lot of great stories in vision and values as part of our onboarding process. And so I get to hear, what did your parents teach you about money? And so you either choose one way or the other. I go with the bad behavior, I go hard against it.
Mm,
And so you got to make a choice and reflect back on your parents who had a huge influence, or whoever that big influence was in your life, on how did they, if you want to get good habits with your money or anything else, you got to be able to look back and see how were you raised in that and who
mm,
influenced that. And if they had poor habits, you got to identify it and say, I don't want that.
mm,
And know that you can have that same destructive nature. And so what I really appreciate about the people that have done well is they're like, man, we didn't have much. They didn't teach me much. I knew we scraped everything we had. And so they were kind of already in a frugal mindset. And
mhm,
so they saw how valuable that income stream from the business was. And
mm,
so they kind of like me. This was mine. Is I didn't we it's not like we weren't provided for growing up. We didn't really have a crazy abundance. And
mm.
so I got into that car accident. Lady sued us, and that was my story. And so I didn't want it to end.
Okay, so what? Okay, well, I was going to wait for this, but let's hear. Nobody knows about your car accident, except you just threw that away. So
So
let's continue with the habits because I'd like to sort of close off on that. Okay. And then we're going to talk about what got you here and we're going to talk about the accident and everything that happened. But for now, okay. So people that are good with money don't blow through it all and spend it all. And they're mindful. Okay. People that are not good with money get into debt. And it's interesting because I was reading that Rihanna fired her wealth manager or whatever. And she said something like, well, why didn't you tell me that I couldn't spend the money? And the guy was like, well, I thought that was obvious. Okay. So she just thought, oh, and he should have told her because obviously she didn't know. But his thing was, wasn't that obvious you were going to run out of money? Okay. And then she's suing him because he didn't tell her she was spending so much money. Okay. And she just thought, I have all this money in the world and I must have good investments or whatever. And he said, isn't that obvious? I thought that was quite funny. So we got people that are good with money are not spending it all and saving some for a rainy day and not having a life, but saying, okay, I made $1 million, I'll spend this on this, but I'm not going to go spend it all. And you take a beat, right? You
right.
take a beat to we call it keeping the gunpowder there. It's not like you immediately spend it all. And it's going to be okay if you're not making a percentage on your money for a little bit because it's better just to have it sit somewhere while you think, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now what's something else that people are bad with money do?
They give it away. It's the same emotional habit, but they end up giving it away. And people don't realize when you have a high income stream, or maybe you sold an asset or got an inheritance or whatever the case might be, is like you have this big thing dumped on you. A lot of people think like, man, I could handle $400 million. I could handle 4 million, whatever the amount is. And the truth is, you have no idea the responsibility that comes with it. Like, are you going to
Mm,
be the one who tells your mom no? Are you going to be the one who tells the rest of your family no, that you can't, I'm not going to help you? Or do you think that's going to go very well? And
mm,
or all the other hands that are going to come out with all the sob stories that are going to tell you that they need the money and they tried this and this and this when they haven't tried.
mm.
And they count on you. And so you're going to be the one who is funneling out all the money and have zero idea. And this happened to a friend of mine who was a baseball player, first round pitcher in the MLB. And all of a sudden he had 30 different subscriptions to Massage Envy he didn't know about, and all his family. And so all of a sudden he had 300 massages in the bank for Massage Envy that he had to go through that was non-refundable. And so, all of a sudden we're giving away to everybody because we feel bad. And there is a guilt side of that too, that there's a lot of well-off people that want to take care of the people they care about. And that's okay, but it's got to be held within a bracket. And so it can't just
Right.
be given away.
That happens a lot with NFL players.
Big time.
All of
Big
a
time.
sudden, everybody, the mom's aunt's cousin says, you need to buy me a house. And you probably saw that a lot with your colleagues, right?
Ton. It's we have a couple athletes that in that I thought that would be a target market for us initially. It turned out it wasn't. And so
Mm.
I still love my guys, but that's where you saw the detriment of some of those parents coming out. And, you'd have a mom or a dad say like, that's my house. He bought it for me. And I'm like, well, no, he bought it. He bought it maybe for you to use, but it's not yours legally speaking.
Mm.
And they would fight that. And they'd fight it to the death. It's my house. It's my house. I raised them. I paid for all those camps. I did all those things and blah, blah, blah. And it's quite wild to see how selfish somebody gets in those situations. And
Mm.
instead of lifting somebody up and wanting to give them a blessing, when realizing like that abundance blessing, or that I don't need anything from you blessing, we crave that. I saw the hands come out when I played, and I only made minimum 5 out of my 6 years playing. But I saw all the hands come out saying what everybody wants for Christmas. Everybody wants this. And I was super, I was short arms because I was worried about it all going away. And but those people that the ones who didn't care were the ones that were closest to me. The ones who got offended by me saying no were the ones that are
Mm.
not in my life.
Okay, so now for average people that are not NFL players getting like a windfall, if they're top players, what are some things that people who are good with money do?
Well, they invest it either back into their company, or they put it into the stock market, into real estate or other private equity, some other place. And so
Mm.
they go invest it. Now, I say that there's a lot of dangers in investing also, because you can get a lot of people that promise big returns or big things. And there's a lot of bad in our business. That's why we have so much red tape. And so what I like is an abundance of counselors. There's safety. So if I'm vetting somebody out, I need to do a background check. If I'm talking to somebody, I want to be like somebody, or somebody's further along than I am. I need to go talk to those people, and not the people that are sitting there flashy and trying to show off things, but the ones that have a really calm spirit about them, that they're trying to discern about you too. Those are the people that they want to make sure that I'm a good guy. I want to talk to them because they're protective of their
Mm.
lives too.
Okay, so people are good with money, invest, they take a beat, they don't give it all away, and they don't spend it all.
Right.
And that's anything else? Any other habits you've seen?
Oh shoot. If they're good, I'll tell you like for our business, they protect it. They do everything they can to protect it.
Right,
And
like with trusts and LLCs and stuff
right.
like that.
That's we go layer it with insurances, trusts, LLCs,
Mm.
holding companies. We do all the things to make sure it's taken care of.
Sorry, in case anybody tries to sue them.
It does. That
Mm.
was my story. And I mean, we have over 40 million civil suits filed every year in the US. And if you're talking about in 2017, there was a study that uh, average Americans lifetime, they have an over 30% chance of being sued. And with our population and that level of lawsuits, there is an 11% chance, 11 to 12% chance of any given time of you being sued. And at that
Mm.
time, the average income was about 50,000. Now it's a little higher, but in our neighborhood, it's over 200,000. And so, okay, so you're pulling out of a nice neighborhood in a nice car, or you have a cowboy star on the side of your helmet pulling out of the facility. How much higher is that probability for you? And so you're a meal ticket for
Mm.
somebody. And whether it's somebody trying to steal in your inheritance, like an idiot brother or sister, or somebody else, some joker trying to mock up a car wreck and hit the brakes right in front of you so it looks like you rear-ended them, happens
Mm.
all the time.
Right.
And
Wow.
I'm not interested in having my family fall to that detriment.
Right. So now tell us your story. What got you into this? You said that there was an accident and your parents got sued. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, no, that was junior year of high school. I rear-ended a lady. Of all good boy things to be doing, I was at a lake party with my church, and and I was with my younger brother. We were going to lift weights with the football team during the summer, and rear-ended her later. Actually swerved. I only hit her back right corner, but she walked away, ran, called 911 to get the ambulance to come out or get the police to come out. Did reports. Everybody walked away just fine. We ended up getting a letter later that she filed suit, and a year later, my mom and stepdad filed for bankruptcy and lost the house and the vehicles. And so, when I came back freshman year of college, that left a little bit of an imprint on me. And so as it came to my time in the NFL, I had all these guys that were promising me another point or two or big numbers on returns on investment. And that didn't light me up. And so I had went with an advisor who was referred to me from another player in the locker room, conflict of interest. I married her daughter. So she had
You
more
married her
interest.
daughter. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back, kind of skated through that again. So this happened. And how did they lose the house? Did they prove that you created a health condition for the woman? I mean, why did they lose everything for?
Well, so I couldn't tell you every detail of that case,
Mm,
right? But I can tell you now what I've worked on with, and this was in the state of Washington. So
mm,
Washington State is where we're from, Seattle area. And I can tell you, like in the state of Texas, really practically right now, state of Texas, we have an unlimited creditor exemption limit on our homes, our homestead, our primary residence, meaning any equity that you have in your home is can't be accessed by a creditor in lawsuit.
mm.
So somebody can't lose or can't sue you, can't get the equity in your home up to 30 grand in the bank and a vehicle. So everything above that is potentially up for grabs. Now there's other caveats to that, but potentially up for grabs. So I know at the very least, I can't lose my home in Texas to lawsuit. There's other problems.
Okay. But I'm just curious. I'm still very curious. Do you not know why your parents lost their home over a tiny accident?
Well, why it shifted to them was the suburban was in their name.
It's in their name. And you do know that parents are liable till their kid is 25, right?
Right.
But but it didn't cause enough damage for them to be sued and lose their house. Did she lie and say that it caused more damage?
She was able to get income and damages lost.
Over a
And
small little
so
accident.
over an accident.
But
Now I couldn't tell you how much that was or
mm,
what the numbers of that detail was, but I know that we came back a year later and bankruptcy was filed and they had lost the house and the vehicles. And so
mm,
that's what all it is. The whole point of that is it's an access point. And so like right now in the state of Texas, that same liability exemption limit is up to the median value of the home given county that you're living in.
mm.
So we had a client that we were working on that the median value in their county was 700 some odd thousand. Well, on a $4 million home, that leaves potential for over 3 million in equity that is exposed for lawsuit.
Wow.
So, those are issues that we
Mhm.
look at and it hadn't been accounted for.
And the thing is, if your house is in a trust, they can't touch it.
Well, it depends on the state.
Mm.
So if you're talking like a revocable living trust doesn't give you
An
creditor exemptions.
irrevocable
It
trust.
doesn't give you shield.
If you put it in,
Right.
mm.
So like irrevocable trust can, but depending on the situation, like here, if we put our home in an irrevocable trust, we lose out on our tax-free exemption or
Uh,
any SALT deductions. So we'll do some other things to get coverage over the top. Plus we have the unlimited credit exemption. So it's not as big a deal here in Texas for our
mm,
homestead,
mm,
but that can be an issue in other states. And so
mm.
it's every state is a little different. We'll want to do there.
Right. How can you protect the house if it's not putting in a trust? How can you protect the house?
Well, you layer it.
Mm.
So that's why I say it's state dependent. I can't give everybody just a blanket
Sure.
recommendation because every state's going to be a little different. But you want to look at a combination of insurances, trusts, and entities
Mm,
to make sure that it's going to be compliant within your state,
mm.
and you're not going to lose out on any tax advantages or lose out on anything else. But as it comes to here, we want to, since we don't have a liability issue, we have a probate issue.
Mm.
So if it's in your personal name and you die, it goes through intestate, and it's basically up to the state and county that you die in what happens to the asset. And so even if you have a will, it still has to be probated. So
Really?
a judge has to be yes,
I
yes.
thought the whole point of a will and a trust, a living trust, was that it doesn't go into probate.
A will is only instruction for probate. A living trust.
How do you get out of going to, because people say if you have a will, it doesn't go to probate. So how can you avoid
No,
going to probate then?
no. A will is instruction for probate. A will doesn't do, and it's a good first step,
Mm,
but it doesn't do the job.
mm,
It's not. it's not bulletproof, I should say that.
Got it.
So you can use trust planning to be a bypass for that. You can do, if you have a primary, you can do ladybird deeds. You can attach beneficiaries. But that's another piece or another issue there that you want to fix is essentially, and there's a lot of attorneys that will come out, and I've met some attorneys that were only will-based attorneys, and they're like, well, I don't think probate is that big a problem. And it may not be in some states, but I still don't want my asset left up to a judge to decide what happens to it.
Once it can take years. No, I mean, you never want it to go to probate. Wow. So it's very complex, and it just really depends on the state, correct?
Correct. Yes.
But what we do know is you want to work with somebody in your state to figure this all out, what those layers are, whether it's going to be in a C Corp holding company, and then that's in a trust. But insurance really would never be enough, would it?
It's just the first layer.
Right.
So when somebody comes at you, or if you do have a liability issue or something, that's the first layer of defense that somebody comes after. And so you want them to pay out, but insurance companies are for profit too. So that's why we add layers to somebody's life.
Yes.
Because if that first one fails, it falls to the next.
Right.
And so, there's lots of stories where insurance failed, didn't want to pay out, or some other caveat was in the provisional language of the document that didn't allow for payout in this specific case. And so, you want to be sure to understand those, but there's lots of those cases. There's stories about minors who were drinking, had one beer, and that because it was a minor who had any alcohol in their system, it voided the umbrella policy that the client had. So then it fell to the next layers. And, that's what you got to plan for.
I feel it's dangerous having a minor drive at all. Like, just because they're minors. Like, my kids aren't going to drive till they're 18 because at least they're not, they're an adult then. So if they're an adult and they've had something to drink, is that a different ruling from a minor drinking?
No, you're still underage. 21 here.
Oh, that's right. I grew up in Australia. 21. It's 21 here. In Australia, the legal drinking age is 18. I keep forgetting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It used to be that in Canada too. I don't know if it still is.
It's interesting because you can go to war and fight for your country, but you can't drink. Seems odd, doesn't it? Doesn't that seem odd?
That one, it is an odd one. Yeah.
That's an odd one. Sure, fight for us, but no, you're not allowed to have any alcohol. Okay. Well, great. Thanks for coming onto the show, Cory. What's one mindset or philosophy you want to leave people with before we close off?
Oh, mindset or philosophy. Shoot, prep me for that one. I'll tell you what, I'd say probably be the example you want to be. There's a lot of, if there's one thing I've learned in the business so far, it's that the laborers are few, and there's not a lot of people that are willing to go find opportunity. And the few people that are, you need to find those few people, but you got to be an example of it first. And if you're not bringing in opportunity or doing good things or hustling out there and just trying to be an example for your family or for your staff, why would you ever expect them to do it?
Okay, so be the change or be the way forward. Thanks for taking a minute to be on our show, or a few more minutes. And thank you for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this one, and please subscribe, do a great review, and turn up to the next one. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.